Well, Ken, this protest took a turn in the last 40 minutes or so. We're nearby Mellon Park now. You can see a little bit of what's left over from this confrontation between police and protesters. Now, around 10:15, police declared an unlawful assembly outside of Mayor Bill Peduto's house. It's completely shattered, glass on the ground, and on the other side of these boards is a mark on the floor that indicates someone tried to light this place on fire. We are here at the Donegal on-ramp, where earlier this afternoon there was a truck blocking that westbound on-ramp to the turnpike. They packed up and left about 6:10. Christine, we marched down West Liberty Avenue, and now take a look. The crowd has knelt down just outside of the Liberty tunnels. This is the second time that they have stopped, and we actually did also see Pittsburgh Police Chief Scott Schubert kneeling down with the crowd as well. And he has marched with the crowd too. Now I'm going to actually pull the camera over in this direction toward the Liberty tunnels. You can see over there that there is a line of police lined up as they have closed down those Liberty tunnels. We are told that the fire started in this green home and then quickly spread to the one right next door. And just to show you how far these flames shot from the green home, take a look at the home on the other side. The siding burned off the side of that one building. Paul, we're in McCandless Crossing tonight, where so many of these businesses around me are going to be impacted by this. The state is mandating that all bars and restaurants in Allegheny County close their dine-in service for the next 14 days, beginning in just 1 hour, just after midnight Monday morning. Again, a state mandate by Governor Tom Wolf to help stop the spread of coronavirus. Obviously, a very large tree, and it caused significant injuries to both of them. Then we're told that after this tree fell, the little girl actually fell into this creek right over here. Fortunately, she was pulled out very quickly. And investigators have left the scene, but earlier this afternoon, they were paying close attention to some woods up this side street here off of Settlers Ridge Road in Fox Chapel. Up that road is where Adam Rosenberg lives with his parents. Now, sources tell KDKA that the remains found belong to 22-year-old Christian Moore Rouse, who was last seen December 21st. His mother was here at the scene and tells KDKA her son and Rosenberg knew each other from college. This sidewalk in front of St. Vincent de Paul just filled with clutter and donations. There's actually an even larger pile of donations around the back of this building. Now, unfortunately, none of these items are actually going to make it inside the store. They're all headed for this dumpster. Paul, you can see the red spray paint on the front of Congressman Doyle's South Side office. It says, "Elections no, revolution yes." And down here, what appears to be a hammer and sickle. This message is the exact same one that appears on Sean Parnell's garage door out in Ohio Township. The economy and industry, a major focus for the president here in front of thousands of his supporters. The Trump campaign as a whole hitting Pennsylvania hard in the final days leading up to the election. Paul, there's a big sign right outside of this store and plenty more back on the doors behind me saying, if you don't have one of these masks, you're not getting inside. This is one of the few places around the city that is actually serving a meal tonight. Several other locations used today to make sure all of their food was ready for Thanksgiving Day.
Quite a lot is different.
When the coronavirus pandemic hit our area in March, the people working in the labs at Allegheny Health Network knew they needed to adapt and fast.
We basically had to bring in all of the new instrumentation for the COVID testing because none of the instruments that we had were able to perform it.
Now the core lab is equipped to process up to 800 tests a day, and it's become a much more routine operation.
They come in, the sample boxes are placed down on this bench.
The lab prioritizes COVID samples by urgency. For example, tests coming from the ICU are processed immediately.
We come back here to what's called a biosafety cabinet where we can open the specimen safely. We go ahead and make a dilution of each sample.
From there, the samples go to one of 5 instruments in the lab for results. Behind this door over here is a machine the lab brought in after the pandemic started, a one-stop shop for processing COVID tests.
We would take this rack, it gets loaded on one side of the instrument, and about 3 hours later, the results would come out.
The machine processes about 94 samples in that 3-hour window and spits out results on this screen. Positives are highlighted in red.
Usually within 12 hours, the physician has the information. It may take him or her another day or so to make some of the phone calls that aren't critical.
Dr. Stefano says there's still a high demand for testing supplies, which can sometimes limit the amount of tests they can actually do. Shelby Cassesse, KDKA News. Glenn Woods and his son Justin were driving here along Munson Avenue just under the McKees Rocks Bridge to pick up this table that Glenn had spotted earlier in the day. They say when they drove up to pick up the table, 3 males approached them from that direction, attacked them, then drove away with their vehicle.
The fight went to the middle of the street, and then I took one of them off, and then I was slammed over by that curb.
14-year-old Justin Woods recalls the terrifying moment from just a week ago. He has bruises on his face and staples in the back of his head. His dad, just home from the hospital, is dealing with much worse.
His entire face is basically broken. Broken nose, broken cheekbones, bruising all over his face. You know, he's home now and suffering from severe headaches.
Police say 3 African-American males approached the father and son, began making casual conversation, then unexpectedly attacked Glenn. Justin tried to help.
They picked me up and slammed me on the floor and punched me in my jaw 2 times.
He tells me the suspects then drove away in the Woods family car and that he thinks he recognized at least one from his high school, Stowe Rocks. He says they all looked young.
15 to 18.
All 3 of them, you think?
Yeah.
A nearby business says they turned security footage into police, but Jody says the faces in the video were too difficult to see. Now the Woods family is without their only car, with Glenn unable to work until he heals.
You know, we would want to see something be done. We would want to see justice kind of happen, but you know, honestly, I think that we just want the car back and we want to move on.
The car is a blue 2004 Chevy Cavalier with license plate JNL9946. McKees Rocks police say that finding that car is key to determining who did this to Glenn and Justin. Anyone with information should call them. Reporting from McKees Rocks, Shelby Cassesse, KDK News. A little bit of a mixed reaction from Pittsburgh tonight. On one hand, Troy Polamalu is going to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but on the other hand, Alan Faneca will have to wait at least another year before he gets the call. Now tonight we sat down with former Steeler Chris Hoke, who played with them both, and he says that both are deserving of the honor. Kobe was so thrilled with his cover on World Magazine, he ordered a blow-up sized version of it. Christine says her meeting with him in Los Angeles was likely going to be about creating a sports magazine. Now, a couple of weeks ago, he posted on Instagram that he wanted to come back and play for the Steelers. Hall said Pryor had been working out in the Steelers weight room, nothing in any official capacity, but he did hope it would turn into an opportunity to play for Pittsburgh. The Steelers, Browns, and 33 players will owe the league over $730,000 combined. And the man that has to pay up the most, Steelers quarterback Mason Rudolph. Ken, anyone who follows WPIAL football likely knows the name Elliott Donald. He's a senior here at Central Catholic, was highly recruited by several Power 5 football programs, and recently committed to the University of Pittsburgh. But he won't be putting on the pads with his Central Catholic teammates this year. He's sacrificing his senior season to protect his family from COVID-19. The next year for Central Catholic senior Elliott Donald will look a lot like this. Speed and agility workouts, lifting almost every day of the week.
The other day I was just like thinking like, man, I was supposed to scrimmage Penn Hills on Friday, you know what I mean? And I was feeling a little down about it.
But otherwise, the 4-star defensive tackle and Pitt commit says he's confident in his decision, foregoing his senior season of football at Central Catholic to avoid increased risk of bringing coronavirus home to his family.
I work out in the same weight room in my granddad's basement that he work out in. You know, I can't give it to my grandma.
And with a handful of local football teams already on hold because of coronavirus cases, Donald says the uncertainty of a full season was also a factor.
On top of risking injury just to play 2-3 games, I just didn't think it was worth it.
Ready, go.
A tough decision for a teenager whose team just won a WPIAL title last year.
Even my class is like my brothers, and I just didn't want to, I talked to them, you know what I mean? I didn't want them to feel like I let them down or anything, because we was looking forward to the season, getting another ring and everything.
But now it's onward and upward for the nephew of 2-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, Aaron Donald. He plans to dive into the Pitt playbook early with goals of contributing for the Panthers next fall.
After this season, I'm going to get with Coach Partridge and start trying to learn the defense so I can hop in my freshman year.
Donald has also publicly advocated for fall sports to be moved to the spring, especially for those senior athletes who are still waiting on some college offers. He says he'd rather see a full season played in the spring than a season potentially cut short now. Reporting live in Oakland, Shelby Cassesse, KDKA News.